This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
This war stops now.
End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
No. No more tricks. No more lies. Only truth.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!
Welcome to the Stop and Listen podcast. I'm your host, Jamie. So, if this is your first time watching the show, that was a new intro. That picture of Laken Riley was new, and that's going to stay up there for a while. Because this has to stop, and we have to have a face. She's not with us anymore. She should be, and let's not forget her. I'm going to try to be a different podcast host here. I mean, I hear a lot of my favorite podcast hosts, man, they have their, they will very passionately talk about issues and then move on to other issues. And we're covering the news. That tends to happen, but there are certain things we need to circle back to. And it doesn't matter how you vote. Having an unsecure border is not safe. The United States itself, how we conduct ourselves around the world, on one hand, it makes us hate it, makes us subject to attack. Obviously, 9/11. And then many other thwarted attacks since then, which, oddly enough, have you heard any? When's the last failed shoe bombing or whatever? Haven't heard from much lately. Why is that? Why are we not seeing any failed terrorist attacks lately? Is it because they're so good, it has it so locked down, and they're just keeping us in the dark about it? Ignorance is bliss? Or are they being silent? Are they waiting for their opportunity? And so many, and let's be honest here, it's married white women who, these type of policies, it's not about compassion. People are being trafficked across the border. Athens, Georgia, they have the policies of what a sanctuary city, despite what their mayor says. The mayor of Athens did a press conference, and it didn't go over real well.
I've received many calls, many emails, many queries from the press in recent days about this notion of a sanctuary city, and so I want to lay some things to rest here today. This term sanctuary city doesn't have a sole legal or procedural definition. You can look in Georgia statute, and you can find a clear definition for a unified government. You can look in contractual language, and you can find out exactly what it means to be an SEC institution. Sanctuary city doesn't track with either of those.
Okay. Innocent woman was beaten to death in your city. And he's on defense. He's acting like he was a party too.
You're sick. You know that? You're really sick.
So let's look up this guy. So this is a man who comes from education. The way he was speaking almost sounds like lawyer talk. So he's actually an educator.
And so that term means different things to different people depending on the context of the discussion.
We know what it means.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
Many of the elements.
Liar.
Liar.
We are here to listen.
Liar.
You're a liar.
We are here to listen.
Liar.
There'll be time for questions.
You are guilty and got blood on your head for this murder, sir.
Many of the aspects that are ascribed to sanctuary cities
We know what sanctuary
are
city
things.
means.
Bravo.
Oh, and forget about RT. He's just pissed off because he recently found out what a loser he is.
Speak out. When in truth, speak out.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers?
Speak the truth.
The truth. You can't handle the truth.
That man is on the defense. And what he's saying isn't even necessarily a lie. He's spinning the truth. He's doing what politicians do.
No, Jackson, don't move.
I'd like to remember you just as you are. Fired!
That are disallowed by Georgia law. And we contribute a document every year to the Georgia Department of Audits indicating that we do not correspond to these definitions under state law.
Yes, you do.
And no policies have been adopted by the mayor and commission that have created sanctuary city status in Athens.
You need to resign.
One protocol that sometimes arises.
Resign now!
You allow
One protocol.
this to happen, sir.
One protocol that sometimes
voted for
arises
this.
is the approach that sheriff's offices and jails take to what are termed detainers. The sheriff's office approach has varied over the years, but this question, again, in the purview of the elected sheriff, honors detainers when issued by a federal judge or federal magistrate. In the main, I caution against conflating immigration and crime. The data demonstrates that the two are not connected.
To say that, just to defend yourself that way. So not doing a super deep dive. I mean, I'm looking this up as I go, and I will edit it for your guys' viewing pleasure. But I heard some audio on that what this mayor said was in fact a lie. And here's a video of him defending a 2019 resolution. Apparently this is the lie. Apparently this proves what the protesters were accusing him of.
Well, almost 1 week after Laken Riley's body was found near the running trail of the University of Georgia's campus, the mayor of Athens, Clarke County, held a news conference on new and proposed safety upgrades. Now, according to federal law enforcement, the suspect charged with murdering Riley entered the U.S. unlawfully in 2022.
And as 11 Alive's Tracy A. McPeer reports, today's news conference devolved into a screaming match about whether Athens is a sanctuary city.
There'll be time for questions.
You are guilty and got blood on your hands for this murder, sir.
At a news conference in Athens on Wednesday, protesters accused Athens Clarke County Mayor Kelly Girtz of creating a sanctuary city in Athens, which they say led to the killing of Laken Riley, despite the suspect in the case, Jose Ibarra, being arrested previously.
And no policies have been adopted by the mayor and commission that have created sanctuary city status in Athens.
Protesters disagree.
8/20/2019.
Citing that on August 20th of 2019, a resolution was signed by Girtz in support of Athens' immigrant, undocumented, and Latinx community.
You called me a white supremacist in your resolution.
In the resolution.
See the Latinx. That's a term, again, some white women came up with so we didn't improperly gender Latinos or Latinas. Because if you see an individual and you need to assume what they are, and you say, oh, he looks Hispanic. Now, Hispanic is not gendered. Latino, Latina is, and that's how they speak. And they don't like it. But, again, thanks to white women coming in, saving the day, protecting feelings that aren't even there.
Athens Clarke County leaders denounced white supremacy. Girtz claims the political climate at the time necessitated that language.
Where you had the President of the United States speaking in the most vile terms about people who were foreign born.
The purpose of the news conference was to discuss proposed security measures, including...
Do you hear this? Because Donald Trump is mean, they had to become a sanctuary city and welcome people like that have no respect for law. Well, don't you understand? These people are pagans. They say they don't believe in God, but they sure act as if they do. It's hard to identify what it is, what their God is. But they, just like they do at the abortion mills, but they take Laken Riley and they put her on their altar to Satan, I suppose. and offer her up. Because, hey, you're going to have to break a few eggs if you want to fundamentally change this country. Remember? Remember that? Fundamentally change this country? Well, it's still happening. We are fundamentally changing as a country. We will now take young women, defenseless. If they don't make it, they don't make it. If you're familiar with Karl Marx at all, he's a real piece of shit. I don't know really where this thought comes from. I assume Karl Marx, but it could be Saul Alinsky. But they say when you want revolution, when you want to overthrow the system, the problems are the middle class. And some people seem as if we've had a war against the middle class for about 2008 or so, because the middle class keeps things going the way they are, because they're comfortable and they'd like a little bit more. So they help keep the upper class in power. And if you can take that middle class and bring them down a peg or two, then you got enough poor people to start burning shit down. That's big picture, right? Now, speaking about safety. Now, there's been people in our country. I mean, we're never obviously completely safe. Things can happen anywhere. Evil is everywhere. I think a lot of the lower class people, I don't like using that term, the proletarians, as Marx might say, yeah, they also don't, they have not been safe for some time in this country. What's happening is the middle class is now becoming a lot less safe. And that's our own fault for kind of just sitting in our comfort and our safety in our suburbs and allowing America to be fundamentally transformed. It's not about party. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. This is about safety of our children. Laken Riley had parents. She had a life. Look at this rally, and thank God for Twitter. So the Twitter account End Wokeness. Joe Biden kneeled, eulogized, and cried for a violent criminal who died during an arrest. He immediately called the Floyd family and posted about him 27 times on Twitter. He still hasn't said Laken Riley's name. Listen, you want to be compassionate, you create a very safe country. Let's start being compassionate for our own children first. If our border is not secure and we don't know who is in our country, we're not aware of the criminality of it, then that's not sympathetic. You can't just assume the best for people. It's not about party. It's not about ideology. This is about safety. We need a big, thick, tall wall with some doors on it. And build it on the northern side too. Things must change, people. Things must change. So, in the news, it's Friday night, and I don't have a date. I'm here with you folks. I am cooking some shrimp. I need to check on, actually. One moment. All right, I've got some shrimp in the oven. I'm going to cook me up a steak and shrimp. So what is going on in the world?
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
So Trump and Biden went to the border. Trump went to Eagle Pass, where the worst of the trafficking was occurring. Biden went to Brownsville, I think. Let's see what our former president, had to say.
Brownsville traditionally has been ground zero for this problem, and it ebbs and flows all across the southern border.
The southern border in the national spotlight today as President Biden and former President Trump both visit Texas. Immigration remains a top issue ahead of the 2024 election, and it's a big topic of discussion here in Georgia as well after last week's murder of Laken Riley on the UGA campus. Police found the body of Augusta University.
What he is doing is just unbelievable. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her.
So I watched a podcast that showed what looked like a Trump ad about Laken Riley. I can't find it on Twitter.
We are learning sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The police report reveals that the 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object, beaten so badly that she suffered a, quote, disfigured skull. Her body was then reportedly dragged to a secluded area. The suspect...
He bashed her head. He tried to rape her. She resisted. She called the police, which they're not releasing that phone call. I don't know, because see, it's that kind of thing's always presented as a political thing. Like, oh, what are they hiding? It was the last moments before this woman died. Like, I wouldn't want to accidentally hear a loved one's last words. So, it not being released I don't know.
In this atrocious crime is a Venezuelan illegal immigrant who crossed the border back in 2022. Republicans are calling Riley's death a result of President Biden's lax border policies.
Okay, so that's one thing I don't like. And they do this with so many different issues. Both sides do it, but the Republicans are really bad. It's like, we've got to solve the Biden immigration problem. Biden is an elderly man. He's corrupt. He's incompetent. The problem our country has with Biden will resolve itself in time, irregardless. If you solve the Joe Biden problem, and then that's immediately followed by the Gavin Newsom problem at the border, or the Kamala Harris problem at the border, or the Michelle Obama problem at the border. Stop attacking the party or the person. Attack the idea. We need an exchange of ideas.
Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter is defending the president. She says, quote, it's important we don't make too much out of this one innocent girl's murder. Watch.
Well, I think when a horrible tragedy like this happens, I think whenever we're dealing with violent crime, there is a sense of outrage, of sadness, and of loss. But I think the important thing to focus on is any one instance shouldn't shape our overall immigration policy, which has so many different facets, including
Molly
economic.
Tibbetts. And I don't know if it's this. I don't know if Molly Tibbetts it's the same case. It very well probably is. Yep. Okay. So I put in Molly Tibbetts. All right. Well, let's spell it properly. Okay, Wikipedia page. NPR. So I'm going to go to the Des Moines Register. How all these, all these websites that require you to pay them money to read their articles, they've all got to be going out of business very, very quickly, right? 1 second. Oh, man. If y'all don't have a cast iron pan to cook up steak in with some butter, oh my gosh. You can do so much with that. So Molly Tibbetts was another young, pretty young woman who was murdered by an illegal immigrant. And there was also that story, I think it happened in California, where a guy who was also a legal immigrant had a gun and was on like a boardwalk and shot, or he said it accidentally went off, but and then it was in a direct shot. Apparently, it hit the ground and then hit her, and she died. And I remember like, oh, hey, let's not turn the fact that the killer was an illegal immigrant into a big deal. How about we just don't have illegal immigrants. You can say, oh, well, not all illegal immigrants are murderers. Well, of course not. But the fact that we can eliminate that part of murderers, the legal immigrant part of being murdered, and then we'll deal with the legal immigrant murders and the citizen murders. So we got citizen murders. That's probably the very, very vast majority of murders. Then you've got probably a good chunk of illegal immigrant murders. And you probably have a very, very small percent that's legal immigrant murders. Let's stop murder. That would be a great political campaign, wouldn't it? Stop murder.
This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
This war stops now. End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
No more tricks. No more lies. Only truth.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!